procurement. Yes, the meeting has been recorded for our records. This year, we would like to present our annual report. Just to remind you, this is our 8th conference and our 8th report in the past 11 years. Those who were present in Skopje last December know that only in December we published our comparative evaluation report, where we employed our benchmarking tool, which is very complex tool to detect three things. First, if the public procurement system has mechanisms to fight corruption and conflict of interest in public procurement. Second, we checked through parallel monitoring concrete public procurement cases against 40 indicators in all procurement phases, in whole public procurement cycle. And third, we check the institutions and their preparedness to combat corruption and conflict of interest in public procurement. That report showed that out of 100 possible percentage, the average of Balkan tender of Western Balkan countries safeguards against corruption in public procurement is 67%, which leave 33% still to be conducted as procurements with high risks of corruption. Later, we published our shadow reports for each country relating to the European Union report on public procurement issued last October. And for this year, again, we offered the comparative overview of the state of affairs in public procurement, but also for this year, we choose one burning issue in each country as a key challenges in public procurement. So briefly, we discussed for each country these burning issues and problems, because the problems detected in last December in shadow reports and also the recommendations remain as it was in December. So we decided this year to go in depth for some burning issues. So I think this is as an introduction. I'll stop here. I'm very glad to have with us Ms. Lyura Limani, who is team leader of EU Integration and Regional Cooperation Program at Open Society Foundations of Western Balkans, who has been supporting this network in the last decade, I can say, especially in the last couple of years. Ms. Limani, it's our pleasure to have you with us. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. Dear colleagues, partners, I'm really, really happy to join you. It is an honor for me to address you today at the opening of the regional conference. Today's event, I know, marks the culmination of as you said, a long journey, at least a decade, right? This initiative, of course, was the brainchild of our foundation in Serbia, and it started back in 2012 together with our two foundations in Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. And now I see, and I think that's an added value, that it has grown into a vibrant network of organizations that are really truly a community that is committed to improving public procurement across the region. Now, of course, the presence of corruption and inefficiencies in our public procurement system remains a significant challenge. I'm sure that we will hear more about this when you present your findings later today. It underscores this urgent need to address these issues and also to enhance competition and transparency. And as far as I could tell from the report that you've shared with us, recent data also show quite concerning trends, right? Competition in public procurement is declining, or has declined rather, from last year. And this, of course, indicates a level and room for corruption. What I noticed also is, alarmingly, 38% of tenders regionally received only one bid. So these are things that we are looking at to measure the level of risk in corruption in this quite large market, right? Of course, today's event marks sort of a final chapter in our joint project, which ends later this month. This project, as I said, began back in 2012. I'm very happy that initially it was led by us at OSF, and now is being led by you guys at Center for Civil Communications. And I'm happy to see and hope that it will continue despite our direct support coming to an end. I see that the impact of the network perhaps will definitely last it. Clearly, we can see that the work that you've done together, and that I can say we've done together through the years, have managed to impact, to influence policy. Your proposals and recommendations have found place within national legal frameworks. Particularly, the red flags that you've raised have found their way to the EU country reports, the progress report. And so these are all very relevant things that I hope that we can maintain and continue to do as a network, as a coalition, with or without OSF's direct involvement. As I said, the public procurement market is a very large market in our region, as you've already noted in your report, and we'll hear more about that, I hope. Only last year, the value has risen to 14 billion euros, but the competition is decreasing, right? And this is something that directly affects transparency, quality of services, and obviously it becomes very challenging to ensure that the best price and quality are available for public procurement when you have only one or two bids. What is probably relevant, and this ties quite well with what we're doing also in the program that I lead on EU integration and regional cooperation, is actually to see the dynamics that exist within the region itself. So according, of course, to your findings, only 1 to 2% of bidders in public procurement come outside of national borders. So this also naturally includes the regional neighbors, but also international bidders, right? And so this is something that we think is quite of importance, because if we strengthen regional cooperation, this would actually enhance accessibility for each of the operators in each of our countries to access markets across the region. It would actually contribute to increased transparency, and of course, this would decrease the chance of corruption, let's say, not necessarily corruption itself. So what we're doing in this aspect, actually, to foster this higher market participation across the region, we're now working together with our partners at Boom Bece. We're working with IDE in Albania and, of course, Open Data Kosovo to introduce a new digital tool that will introduce a way to make public procurement documents across the region more accessible. And the piloting phase, we will make available in English the top 50 most valuable bid standards across each of the Western Balkan 6 in real time. And we hope that this will contribute to overcoming language barriers and information that exists right now, and hopefully level the playing field for bidders across the region. And this, I mean, fundamentally, this idea came out of our sort of basic premise or supposition that higher competition will lead to better oversight in procurement procedures. So naturally, we still have a lot to do. There needs to be a lot of institutional reform. We need to align our standards with international and particularly EU standards when it comes to public procurement, and harmonize amongst ourselves for these markets to become more accessible. But this is one way that we're helping to do that. And I think it also comes to show that the entire region needs to rapidly digitalize. And this is something that we're also pursuing with our other programs on digital transformation. I will stop here, but thank you again for having me. I really am grateful to all of you for the work that you've been doing for the past decade. And I hope that you continue keeping the watchdog activities alive. You've introduced amazing tools to contribute to improved standards in public procurement. And I'm really looking forward to hear today's discussion and also discuss in detail the challenges that you found across the region. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lura, so much. Thank you for wonderful introduction. So I can spare some words, and I can start straight in presenting only key findings of the report, so to leave more room for my colleagues and also for discussion. As you mentioned, we at the Balkan Tender Watch Coalition, We really believe that EU integration is a reformative agenda. Throughout the years, we brought together not only in parallel of detection of the risk in each country, we brought together representatives of audit institutions, of state anti-corruption authorities, public procurement authorities, appeal authorities, then CSOs and the media, especially investigative media, to exchange these views, opinions, and also we served as a valuable source of information for all these stakeholders. I will now share my short presentation. Yes. I will briefly present this comparative report on the state of affairs in public procurement, and it is kind of a longer title, that despite the steady increase in public procurement value, competition in tenders has declined all over the region, and highlighting ongoing challenges and recommendations. So in a way, we are stuck in one situation with mostly with no progress in the last couple of years. The report is eight. I would now. Yes, the report is eight consecutive report, as I mentioned. It gives overview of the states and trends in public procurement in regarding of volume, competition, composition, cancellations, and appeals. And at the end, as I mentioned, it contains the key challenges in each of these countries, along with recommendation for overcoming those challenges and for improving the situation. So the total value of public procurement across the region rose to 14 billion euros last year, with an annual increase of 23 percentages. And just to give you a broader picture, cumulative public procurement value rose by 64% only compared to 2020 pandemic year. So in 3 consecutive years, we reached from close to 8 billion to 14 billion euros. And Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina were the only countries with a consistent increase of public procurement value from 2020 onward. So this is a better picture. So you can see that all Western Balkan countries, but Albania recorded highest ever procurement values exactly in 2023. Kosovo sees the large jump of annual jump of 45%. Albania saw decrease of 10%, and other countries procurements grew 15 to 34%. We will send you the report for those who do not have it after the conference, so there are more details there. Speaking of public procurement as share of GDP, the average is 9.5, up from 8.8 last year. North Macedonia here leads with 11%, followed by Serbia with 10.5. And these two countries have set the new records as a share of GDP in 2023, while the other countries, Albania in 2020, Kosovo in 2019, Montenegro in 2020, and Bosnia and Herzegovina last year saw the records in this regard. Regarding the share of budget expenditure, the average is 27.7, and it is increased from last year 25.7. Here I would only mention Serbia with this record of 41%, and Albania reached that record in the pandemic 2020, but now only Serbia holds this very high share of their public procurement as share of budget expenditures. So when it comes to the competition, there is no much to be proud of. The average number is 2.8. Last year it was 2.9. The competition declined in all countries except for Albania this year. So we are not talking anymore about 5 or 4 or even 3 bidders per tender, but as you can see, Bosnia has very low number of bids per tender, and to mention that Montenegro saw its first drop in 5 years. North Macedonia has constant drop in the 4 consecutive years. Serbia is steady or a little bit of drop in the last, I don't know, 6 years. So exactly to these trends, also the thematic reports talk about, and my colleagues will explain later. The other indicator of, and Allura also mentioned, the share of tender procedures with only one bid. As you can see, Serbia and Bosnia have alarming trends of over half of the tenders presented with only one bid, while Albania, and Kosovo are on the other side of the chart, and North Macedonia and Montenegro in between. Regarding the structure of public procurement, on average, 85% of procurements are conducted through open procedure. Last year it was 81. And also it is important here to mention Bosnia and Herzegovina with only 60% of open procedures. And all these other countries significantly improved the situation, because I remember only a few years ago these percentages were 61 to 65. Now we have over 82% up to 97 in Serbia. And the use of negotiating procedure dropped to average of 7.2 from 10.8 last year, but also alarming percentages in 3 countries, especially Kosovo, Albania, and Bosnia and Herzegovina. The another indicator is share of structure of public procurement per type of procurement subject. As you can see, in 4 countries, we spent most of our public procurement money on goods. Kosovo and Albania being exception, where the most public procurement money is spent on services, while works are important part of the procurement in BiH and Montenegro. Cancellation of procedures, which was a Macedonian specialty, now became a regional one. Montenegro, for the first time, have these 36 percentages and surpassed North Macedonia, which was leader in the region, in Europe, I can say maybe in the world in the past years. But still North Macedonia and Kosovo, they have 24 and 26 percentages, while Albania reduced its cancellation rate significantly this year, while Bosnia and Herzegovina, while Montenegro has doubled this year. So that's why Albania is in the first part of the chart and Montenegro in the last one. And finally, the appeal procedures. Complaints were used in average of 8.2 percentages of all procedures. In Serbia and BiH, they have very low rates of 1.5 and 1.6, while in Montenegro and Albania, they have they have 15 percentages. This can be a long discussion, but we see appeal procedures as also one of the safeguards on for corruption and integrity in the public procurement. That's why we think we put a lot of attention in analyzing them. And the last chart is on share of admitted appeals. In average, 1/3 of complaints are admitted last year, which is significant decline from 41% of admitted appeals in 2022. Montenegro has only 14% of admitted complaints, and this also is something that need to be analyzed deeper in the next period, while Serbia have this 46%. To mention, in Macedonia, for the first time in couple of years, the share of admitted appeals dropped under the 40%. So now I will ask my colleagues from our coalition to briefly present only key aspects of the thematic reports, and then to leave more room for discussion. We will have so when we were discussing the agenda, we realized that we would like to group these presentations by the problems that they are referring to. So we will have my colleague Rasko Naumov from Center for Applied European Studies, SPES, from Belgrade. My colleague Aleksandar Draganic from Enterprise Development Agency, EDA, from Banja Luka. Then Agon Hisai from FOL Movement, or Revizija FOL, from Pristina. Then Lazar Grdinic is our colleague from the Network for Affirmation of NGO Sector, MANS, from Podgorica. And last but not least, my colleague Dorian Matlia from the Center Respublika, or Kendra Respublika, from Tirana. So Rasko and Aleksandar will talk about the alarming trends in declining competition in public procurement in Serbia and Bosnia and Herzegovina. Then my colleague Agon will refer to one specific problem for Kosovo, which refers to the framework contracts based on unit prices, which creates numerous opportunity for abuse. My colleague from Montenegro will emphasize the limited capacity of relevant institutions to detect and address corruption and conflict of interest in public procurement in Montenegro. And similarly to that, for Albania, my colleague Dorian will address concerns surrounding lack of an effective system for prevention of corruption in public procurement. So as you can see, we have, and also at the end, I will say a couple of words about Macedonian thematic problem this year, which is also declining competition. So I'll stop sharing my presentation now, and I will ask my colleague Rasko to address the participants.
Thank you, German. Thank you, Ms. Limani. Hi, everyone. My name is Rasko Naumov. As German said, I am from Center for Applied European Studies from Belgrade, and I'm a lawyer too, procurement lawyer. Thank you for your great introduction. Both of you gave me a good starting point for my brief presentation of thematic report. After you saw those data German presented, it is not surprised why we chose lack of competition as one of the biggest problems in procurement system in Serbia. even though we were struggling to pick just one problem among a lot of problems related to public procurement here, public procurement system in Serbia. We chose the lack of competition because without, as Ms. Limani said, without competition, it is impossible to achieve the essence of public procurement. If we say that best value for money is the essence of procurement, without participating as many as competitors at the market, you can't achieve that aim. So last 3 years, average number of bids per procurement procedure in Serbia was 2.5, 2.4. That fact maybe doesn't give you a clear picture about procurement, about competition in procurement in Serbia, because it's slightly below the EU average of more than three bids. But the devastating fact, as German presented, is that in overhaul procedure, only one bid was submitted. I think between 50 and 52% of all the procurement procedure, only one bid was submitted. In other words, competition in public procurement in Serbia is at a very low level, or we can say it practically doesn't exist. Moreover, if we have in mind that Serbia adopted some special laws which suspends public procurement law for the biggest infrastructure projects, then you have the full picture about state of public procurement in Serbia. Reasons for such a small competition level of competition are numerous. I think one of the biggest is lack of trust in the system, favorism of certain bidders by contracting authorities, drawing technical specifications and criteria for certain bidders, bid rigging and market division as one of the common forms of bid rigging. So that's the situation. That is how it is. In our thematic report, we tried to illustrate all of this I said by two glaring examples of why the competition is at such a low level. Those are first example was procurement of digital X-ray devices for 15 health institutions. Estimated value of this these procedures, which was carried out between 2018 and 2021, was 1.6 million euros. So, and in all of those procedures, contracting authorities determined the same technical specifications, which of course favored only one bidder. And in all those procedures, only one bidder won the contract with the offered price nearly as estimated value. And the second example was procurement of equipment for the new clinical center of Serbia. It's such absurd procedure. Ministry of Health was buying more than 600 different equipment for the new clinical center. They were buying from non-medical equipment such as coffee cups or bar tables, and through standard medical equipment to to the most sophisticated CT scanners and magnetic resonance devices and so on and so forth. And they shaped the subject of this procedure as a whole. You know, they didn't divide it into lots. And moreover, they gave the minimum deadline for submitting bids, the minimum which our PPLO knows, for 35 days, and you know the outcome was only one bid was submitted, probably that favored bidder, and offered price was almost the same as the estimated value. Estimated value was I think 100 billion euros. So yeah. So to conclude, yes, this is a really big problem. I think without solving this problem, Serbia won't permanently close the Chapter 5 concerning public procurement. Just to say that we opened that Chapter 5 8 years ago, and the forecast was very positive, very optimistic. But year after year, our data are declining. So yeah, we have to do a lot to temporarily close that chapter. Thank you.
Thank you, Rasko. And at least in the Balkan Tender Watch Coalition, we were very happy to see public procurement moved in first cluster of a new methodology for a negotiation with the European Union. And that gave us also a lot of power and enthusiasm to continue our work. Unfortunately, we'll still stay on the same problem with declining competition in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And my colleague Aleksandar Draganic from EDA will now continue the same story with maybe different, little bit of different numbers.
Thank you, German. Hello, everybody. My name is Aleksandar Draganic. I'm from EDA, Enterprise Development Agency from Banja Luka. And in personal and organizational capacity, I've been member of this coalition from its beginning. And the situation, the reason why actually we chose this topic for the report is, let's say, alarming. If in Serbia it's 2.5, something that is alarming, let's say that 1.45 bids per tender is in Bosnia in 2023, and that the data tells a story for itself. Some figures say that, let's say, in the region we have the biggest amount of money that is spent on public procurement, 2.6 billion euros annually, which is 25% of total budgetary expenses. It means that 25% is spent without 2/3 or 25% of all budget expenses are spent in smudgy dealings with only one bidder. In 2016, it was 2.55 bids per tender. Now it's 1.35. Every year we have a decline. Decrease also foreign bidders' participation from 7.47 to 3.34. But you should take these figures in consideration, because foreign bidders are only targeting big tenders. It means that there are even less. There are only few tenders that foreign bidders are present. Is in terms of numbers of tenders that are actually using. And also one figure which is alarming, which actually we managed to get through our research 3 years ago. It was when we were surveying bidders, they say 88% of they said that corruption is present in public procurement, and that favoritism towards certain bidders is something that is common practice in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Why we have this low competition? We deal with, we have a complex regulatory framework, which there is a law and 20 subordinate regulations that deters many bidders, especially those small and medium ones. And they actually, they are, they don't want to participate. They cannot participate. They don't have a knowledge. That is linked to this functionality of a procurement system, which is still lacking behind other Western Balkan countries. Of course, we have some economic constraints. It means that number of limited suppliers of certain goods in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but alarming situation of 1.5 is even worse if we say that 50% of all public procurements were related to goods, not works. Which it means that usually when you have a procurement of works, that you have a 2 or 3 bidders, but in goods you have only one. And if I say that 3 years ago, a 1.07 average bid was for procuring official cars for public institutions, it means that minister, director of public institution, and so is using the public money as something that maybe we as individuals cannot do and go and buy whatever he wants in terms of dealing with certain suppliers. Also, this lack of proper oversight control mechanism from year to year. In progress reports, we have a fact that our public procurement agency and public review body are lacking capacity. And this is something that is present for the last 15 years of progress reports. And nobody does anything with that because many factors not to tackle it now. Of course, corruption and collusion, cartelization is something which is typical for Bosnia and also undermine competition. Now, previous Muslimani and Rastko, they have said that consequences of corruption are, let's say, higher prices for certain goods, lower quality, but also please bear in mind that increased risk of corruption is something that is very present and it is increasing all the time from year to year. I think the Balkan cancer is corruption. That's something which I actually was dealing professionally for the last 20 something years. And it means that everything what is done, if it's present as a corruption, it is senseless. For example, we have e-auction they announced e-auction as something that is, let's say, it will lower the prices and so on. But it's senseless if you have only one bid. What we actually are through our research are trying, what are strategic measures for improvement? Some measures are included. I was present as a member of, as somebody who actually tried to provide some contribution to this public procurement strategy in Bosnia and Herzegovina to 2028. And there are some, like simplifying regulatory framework, digitalization, and so on, but also and strengthening institutional capacity. But please bear in mind that there are some measures that are not tackled, and especially those which are dealing with, let's say, improving the number of enabling business community to participate more, but not just from Bosnia and Herzegovina, but also from the region. That is something what Muslimani has said, that with open data and then these tools will be provided. But it means that if we don't have others that will be, and if you don't have the conditions for that, it will be very hard to do it. For example, I know that language barriers and this bureaucratic attitude of our, let's say, policy makers in this area will say that everything has to be prepared in languages of Bosnia, Serbia, and Croatian, which is, and they will say they will let's say put barriers to all others that will actually try to compete. Of course, there is something which we also through this analysis we are always trying to say that stronger control and sanctions for corrupt practices, it means that if you are preparing tender documents and if you put something that only one bidder can satisfy, somebody, prosecution, audit controls, I don't know who, public procurement agency or in monitoring of that has to say that this is not a practice that is possible to happen anymore. Otherwise, they will continue to do that. And you will have discouraged bidders and you will have corruption. And as I said, regionalization of the market and the Western Balkan opportunities is something that has to put on the agenda of, let's say, not just this procurement agency, but it means like all European Union and donors and so on, and through their projects and also higher government levels. That's something in brief. And because our thematic report was meant to be very brief, but it means that I think that competition is the essence of everything. It deters transparency, it deters all other things that are important for public procurement. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. Before to pass the floor to my colleague Agon, I also wanted to add couple of words about the same problem for Macedonia. Everything was said applies to Macedonia as well. I will not going to repeat the numbers. I would like also to add one specific problem that which is interesting, that only 10 companies receive 23% of total value of public procurement awards in North Macedonia, which speaks for the high level of concentration. And out of more than 70,000 registered companies, only 6,000 are participating in the public procurement market. And one problem that was not tackled throughout the years was the bid rigging, which is an alarming problem throughout reports, and also other CSOs and the media showed a number of examples for bid rigging, but nothing has happened. I mean, there is an institution that is responsible for that, but so far with very limited success. And also what we would like to see to bring also associations of businesses abroad. We tried. We also have them as a valuable stakeholder, especially in the fight against corruption. But then again, in none of the countries we've seen some significant results, especially in North Macedonia. Now we are trying to make the biggest chamber of commerce, asking their members to sign this declaration that they are not going to bribe public officials during the tenders, and that to be a precondition for membership. So if we succeed that, I think it will move things forward regarding the competition, because only one number more, and I will stop here. Can you imagine that for buying new cars in North Macedonia, 80% of the tenders are presented with only one bid. So the car is just the specification is taken from the catalog, and those who are selling this car, they already know that the tender is meant to for them. So there is no other bids presented. And as you all know, our former Prime Minister is in exile just for tender for buying a car, a preset tender with only one bid. And yet 80% are continuing that practice. So I will pass the floor to my colleague Agon. As I mentioned, one very specific issue he is tackling in his analysis, framework contracts based on unit prices. So Agon, please explain to all of us why this is a problem, so we can all understand and be careful not to have this problem in our countries as well.
Thank you, Herman. So I'm Agon Hüsey from Levizia Fold or Fold Movement. Just a quick word on the competition. So as you saw, we have like 3.5 bidders per tender, but compared to 5 years ago, this is going down. So we are getting there together with other countries. And that's why I didn't touch this specific problem yet, the competition, but we have another problem, and I'm sure it is also a problem in the other countries. The framework contract with unit prices, as we say, or like contracts where the quantity of the product is not known. And this procedure is conducted using a price scoring or weighted scoring. So the quantities is not known, and each quantity of the product is set as 1. In order for when you start implementing the contract, then you can ask the economic operator for the specifics quantities of the items or the services. So the main point of this procedure is, according to the law in Kosovo, is when the contracting authority does not know the quantities. So the whole sentence is here, it applies only to the contracting authorities where he doesn't know the quantities and he decides itself that the quantities are not possible to be known. I'm sure we can have many examples. Let's say the car maintenance, where the quantities are for real not possible or very hard to be known. So they use this procedure. But we have seen a lot of procurements are starting to apply this procedure, mainly because it's much easier. The contracting authority does not bother to do market research, to do research on data. We have a lot of data now available, so there is no justification not to use that in order to calculate the quantities. But we have seen that they are doing this, and mainly I think is for possible misuse in public procurement, because using this procedure is much easier to do corruptive actions. So as I said, in Kosovo, this procedure can be used for all kinds of contracts, even for works, but only for maintenance and repairs. And of course, supplies and services are included as well. So this data is not available in the Public Procurement Regulatory Commission report because it's very hard. So using our calculations, we found out that at least 350 tenders have used this procedure. But if you look in the value of contracts, it's 10% of value of all contracts compared to 3.4% only as procedure. In this procedure, as we said, the method is conducted using the lowest price, but the lowest weighted price is not always the lowest or the cheapest bid, because as we can see from an example, mainly this is used when a specific economic operator has inside information from contracting authorities and what kind of products is more likely to be ordered. So we have an example here, is a case study where we have abnormally low prices in specific items and higher prices in other items. Let's say supply, for example, with broken stone or gravel, 24 cents per cubic meter, excavation, 24 cents per cubic meter, but then transportation is higher price in order to be like weighted for the lower prices they put in other items. Another example I just found out is like we have in one municipality 2 items. Both of them are supplied with concrete, like different types of concrete. One price is 114 euros, the other is 10 euros. And it's not rocket science, of course. The contracting authority will order the highest price because the economic operator, when they bid 10 euros for 1 cubic meter of concrete, they knew for sure that that item will not be ordered, because ordering that will mean that the economic operator will operate at a loss. So from our analysis, we found out that mostly all of contracts of this kind have abnormally low prices. All of them have items which have higher prices and some of them which have very low prices. This is done mainly to have a lowest weighted price in order to win the contract. Then after the contract implementation start, it's a different picture altogether. But for an economic operator to be able to offer this kind of very low prices, we're talking 1 cent prices, for sure they must have inside information from the contracting authorities that it's possible to bid this kind of prices, win the contract, and during implementation, the contracting authority will not order those products. I'm sure even if in our neighboring countries, this situation can happen because this type of contract is foreseen in all public procurement laws, but we just have to find out where the problems are. And of course, the prosecution needs to have better capacity built in order to find this kind of contracts, this kind of problems, and make like accusations. So that's it from my side. I mean, it was very short, but I tried to present in the grand picture what the problem is with the framework contract with unit prices.
Thank you, Agon. All participants can read the case studies presented in Kosovo as part of the thematic report to go in depth in this problem, which, as I realized, is not naive, having in mind that these contracts are 10% of all procurement. Now we go to our colleague from Montenegro. Just to remind you, in the last European Commission report from last November, Montenegro was the highest rated, Montenegro's procurements were the highest rated by the European Commission with moderate good preparedness. As our colleagues from MANS point out in their thematic report, they speak about limited capacities of relevant institutions in Montenegro to detect and to address corruption and especially conflict of interest in public procurement. Lazar, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, German. Good day, everyone. It's nice to see and to hear from friendly and familiar faces. And also it's nice to see that we have some colleagues from the institutions to listen and participate in this event. So considering that it is an online event, I'll try not to be too harsh about this topic. While preparing for the discussion, I have again read the yearly report for 2023 when it comes to Montenegro, and I want to repeat the most important technical part, which is that Montenegro spent 675 million of euros for the public procurement last year, which is almost 10% of the GDP. So we can agree it is a lot. When you read the report carefully, you can see that the word problem is mentioned once. So from the angle of our institutions, we don't have many problems, but Mans would not agree, and I will not agree with that. I think it's safe to say that despite improvements, corruption and conflict of interest remain as significant challenges in Montenegro's public procurement system. There have been concerns about favoritism, lack of transparency in certain tenders, and inefficient use of resources. When we talk about corruption in more detail, I can say that only journalists and investigative NGOs try to obtain more information and investigate suspicion tenders in a more detailed way. But even in cases when we manage to dig something out, institutions don't have enough capacities and technical knowledge to process that report in a proper way. When we speak about conflict of interest, things are quite obvious. We have a repeated pattern where one company wins the tender, and then that company hires a subcontractor, which is that is often connected to a public official who comes from the institution that is conducting that procurement. We had that case with the former president of Budva municipality who did tenders in that way, and we filed criminal charges about that case, but prosecution rejected them. So I repeat, it's safe to say that they, other than capacities, they often lack political will to deal with these cases. This also leads us to the issue of capacities. You will often hear prosecutors and police stating that they lack the capacities and specific technical knowledge to pursue these cases. This is only partly true. In my opinion, they also lack, as I said before, the political will to tackle these misuses and, let's say, poke a bear, because we are speaking about a lot of money. On a positive note, I want to address that Criminal Code of Montenegro was indeed updated with a specific criminal act, which is abuse of public procurement, in December last year. So it should ease the situation for them. However, it is yet to be seen what will be the result of introducing public procurements abuses into the system. When we speak about weak oversight, in countries like Montenegro, corruption persists because of that weak oversight, insufficient legal framework, and lack of enforcement of existing regulations. And in the end, I want to refer to a specific case that was discovered by the media, but also with the help of Mans technical services, which we provide to journalists and other NGOs. A local journalist discovered that the Montenegrin Museum of Contemporary Art hired people to organize an exhibition in Biennale, which happened this year, and that museum didn't conducted any tenders and any public procurements, and that they have spent directly engaging and hiring those people, that they spend around 160,000 euros. It was discovered and reported on during the summer. And yesterday, that same journalist reported on the fact that the public procurement inspector fined that institution with only 5,000 euros. And that director who hired people outside of the system was fined with 250 euros. So low penal provisions are also a part of the problem, and they don't discourage the responsible people not to conduct the process in this way. So for now, that would be enough from us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lazar. You opened a Pandora box with this criminal code changes because, as you all know, in our country from last year, they deleted the article in the criminal code that was referring to the abuse of power in public procurement with these high penalties of imprisonment. And now, because of that, because of statute of limitation, all big faces, all elected and appointed officials that were in courts for crime related to public procurement were released of any kind of responsibility. So it's not anymore possible to charge them.
If I can only add, I'm sorry to interrupt, German. I forgot to say, okay, we have it now in a criminal code from December last year, but in the last 8 years, we don't have any verdict related to misuses of public procurements. So yes.
In North Macedonia, the verdict is there, but only for public procurement as such, so not necessarily referring to abuse of power or whatever. So to be clear and not misunderstood. As I mentioned, last but not least, my colleague Dorian from Republika Center or Kendra Republika from Tirana, also referring to the problems of lack of effective system for tackling corruption and conflict of interest in public procurements in Albania. Dorian, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, German. Yes, I mean, you have already covered lots of figures in the initial presentation, and of course, some of those figures require, many multi-factor analysis and this and that. But I was trying to stop in one of the figures that struck us the most. It was zero reporting of cases of corruption or irregularities from the agencies that run the system, basically, I mean the procurement system, from within the system itself. And this created us the idea that there is a lack of reporting and corruption within the system of Albanian public procurement, but I like it to label more like a lack of ownership and responsibility in reporting these corruption cases. So this kind of lack of ownership and responsibility in reporting these cases is, let's say, one of the things that it's an issue that can hold back Albania's progress, of course. And we know that public procurement in Albania, I mean, now we see the figures are at around 10% of the GDP, which it means that nearly 10% of our national economic activity involves the purchasing of goods, services, and work by public authorities. And however, despite this significant impact, the system we have in place to ensure transparency, fairness, accountability in procurement, it's somehow failing to live up to its full potential. So let's say that we have, I mean, run by the public procurement agencies, we have a centralized electronic procurement portal, which of course is a major step towards the digitizing process and to reduce opportunities for manipulation, etc., etc. And in fact, Albania electronic procurement system has been rated as one of the best, or basically the best in the region. And when, of course, it is not worth it to say that this is an achievement. Still, having this best electronic system is not enough. I mean, it's also the human factor behind the system that also should work effectively. that should have proper oversight, monitoring, because without it, the system efficiency might be diminished. For instance, these authorities that run the system, the Public Procurement Agency or even the Public Procurement Commission that deals with appeals, or even the Directorate of Anti-Corruption that has been created under the Prime Minister's office. All this, they should go and scrutinize, for example, those red flags that have been pointed out, not only in this report, but also in other reports, also by civil society organizations, other organizations in the past, which are related to the qualification criteria, for example, set by agencies, which often companies complain that they are discouraged for participation or even disqualified without any good reason. Or there are procedures when the competition is lacking, or there are significant problems that are pointed out during the execution phase of procurement contract. All these red flags that are highlighted by civil society organizations, if we combine them with the irregularities that are uncovered by the supreme audit institution as well, and those which are investigated by the detention of high-ranking officials, all this point to corruption that stems from the failure, basically, of preventing the thing. The failure of the human factor to take this kind of responsibility. So it's not enough to have the advanced system if the people that run it fail to ensure basically the fairness and accountability. One of the concerns is, as I said, is lack of any case reported by these agencies. During the 2022, the Public Procurement Agency reported no case of corruption to the prosecutor office. Similarly, even the General Directorate of Anti-Corruption said the same thing, answered the same thing, that no criminal charges were filed in the field of procurement during the year of monitoring. And this suggests that there is a reluctance of these bodies to assume this kind of responsibility to take actions. Yet, despite the lack of reporting, we know that the corruption exists. We see that the Special Anti-Corruption Prosecutor and the Special Court are dealing with numerous investigations and cases for public tenders and concessions. Of course, cases which are ongoing still is foreseen that will have a great success rate, but because we see that the acquittal rate in these cases are less than 1%. So basically, this tells us that most of these investigations are well-founded. And in all likelihood, they will lead to convictions for offenses like corruption, abuse of office, breaches of equality in tenders. And well, then from where are these corruption reports coming from, if not from the very agencies responsible for oversight? They're primarily initiated by external bodies. Which are external bodies from the procurement system, such as the Supreme Audit Institution, the private companies that are affected by unfair practices, media, and even politics. This tells us two critical things. First of all, corruption exists within the system. And second, there is glaring failure on the part of public agencies to take preventive or corrective action. And instead of acting as guardians of transparency, integrity, these agencies are leaving the job to somebody else to report on corruption case of corruption that they might spot early on. So there is a lot of evidence. Supreme Audit Institution, for example, has identified significant losses amounting to millions of euros due to irregularities of procurement. Organizations like, for example, Open Data Albania have flagged serious red flags in high-value tenders, including limited competitive procedures, which heighten basically the risk of favoritism and corruption. So we see these warning signs, but the authorities which are responsible to foresee, to monitor, to oversight, they fail to act. So another problem, which I want to point out, because we saw this during our work of collecting the information to inform basically the report, we see that there is a serious problem of lack of transparency in the procurement process. Authorities are required by law to provide access to all these documents, such as contracts, market analysis, invoices, and so on. However, related to retroactive transparency, when authorities are forced to react to a request for information, are answering in practice in less than 20% of cases. They fully comply with the request of the law. And even basic procurement documents are often withheld without any good reason and without let's say, unless you take a legal action, basically. Related to proactive transparency is less, I mean, we as an organization, we just also monitor also the transparency in general. We see that 2% of the authorities fulfill the proactive transparency related to monitoring of procurement and concession contracts. So this kind of severe lack of transparency further complicates the accountability. Many journalists, for example, we have journalists here as well joining this meeting. They struggle to get the information. They fight for years, even to the point that there is no meaning anymore to access those documents. And then on the other side, I mean, we see that this, from one side, we see that it's perpetuated a culture of secrecy and irresponsibility, lack of ownership of responsibility within the public authorities. On the other side, we have a recent development that the Prime Minister of Albania, Edi Rama, acknowledged, first of all, these problems. He said recently publicly that he said that public procurement remains, and I'm quoting this, it remains one of the most troublesome sources of corruption, most distasteful aspects. He emphasized that the introduction of artificial intelligence, and this is the beauty of it, could help address these issues. And he said that with AI, we can completely overcome this problem. By automating the process, we eliminate the need of human intervention. Yes, of course, but he said that at the end of the day, all these hundreds of thousands of human interactions, taking documents here, submitting papers there, all of this can be handled by algorithms and models. But while this solution might reduce some of the opportunities for manipulation, we have to ask ourselves, I mean, is automation a real solution? Can we truly depend on technology to solve such a deep-rooted problem? Or are we simply shifting, basically, the responsibility away from human oversight? And AI, of course, may help streamline any process and reduce inefficiencies, but it cannot replace the responsibility that public officials should bear. We cannot rely on algorithms to substitute accountability. So humans should remain in the heart of the process, taking ownership of their duty and ensure that the public funds should be used properly. And corruption, of course, to be prevented. So what do we do at the end of the day? First and foremost, we must strengthen the framework that governs the public procurement, of course. This means increasing competition, compliance, professionalization at every level of the process. But even more importantly, we need to foster this kind of culture of responsibility within our public authorities. Public authorities must stop passing the ball to another authority. It is their job, their responsibility to report and prevent corruption, not just react after the fact or being just a spectator. And of course, not to leave the technology to implement that kind of thing, of course. So they must step up and fulfill their duty. So even if we have, and it is one of the things that the authorities here are proud of, even if we have, let's say, a good system, even the best system, even if we can introduce AI, still, the most advanced technologies will fall short of ensuring a corruption-free public procurement process in Albania if they don't embrace their role as protectors of transparency and integrity, and not just being bystanders. This is, let's say, the most important topic I wanted to share today with you. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Dorian, and thank you for tackling this also issue for using of artificial intelligence in public procurement, which is also on international level now in an emerging topic, and there is still various and I would say different opinions on that. I'm keep looking at the number of participants, and we have steady 62 from the beginning until now, so which give me an idea that we are not boring. But yes, we will finish here with findings, presentations, and analysis. So, and we will open the floor for discussion. And we titled the discussion, "How can we overcome the challenges and improve procurement?" So let's talk about the possible solutions, future, about making procurement more efficient and spending, which is most important, spending public money on efficient way with purpose and for the general benefit of all citizens. to remind you that our last year benchmarking tool showed 33% of spending under the auspices of corruption, which means translated from 14 billion volume of public procurement, that close to 5 billion are, I would not say go to the to private pockets, but let's say under high risk of corruption. You can just simply, I don't know, raise your hands or start talking, and I will ask my colleague also, Alexander, to help me in moderating or managing this this session. Please, I see a lot of faces that would like to say something and usually participate in these discussions. Is there
Any
anyone?
volunteer? I would just add that what we actually heard, all of us up to now, is that we all share the same problems. In Bosnia, let's say that competition is something which is urgent, but this unpunishment, not sanctioning the obvious problems or obvious corrupt cases, judiciary, is the same thing everywhere. In all countries of Western Balkan, what actually was Dorian mentioned before. We even consider that this is something that has to be taught to those people from judiciary, because public procurement and the attitude toward public procurement which we had from the EU up to now is not just a practical process law that deals with procurements per se. It is something that it can boost or it can deters corruption in public institutions or public organization throughout Balkans. But from the last 10 years, we see that fight against corruption in this area is not so. Let's say we are losing this fight. We are actually we cannot our findings, our reports, they tackle some is practical issues, but it can be said that corruption is something that nobody from these professionals from public procurement institution want to say. We are reminding them on that, but usually they deal with EU directives, and within the EU directives you don't have corruption. You have some other aspects. Maybe somebody will join.
Thank you, also. Yeah, that you point to that. I would say common problem. I see Miss Lena Andersson is rose her hand. Miss Lena Andersson is head of EU support for rule of law project tackling related to anti-corruption in North Macedonia. Please, Lena.
Yes, thank you, German. We have in our component the objective to address this issue, and I agree with German that I think working through the private sector is seems like a possible way if you have good partners. We have struggled a lot to find good partners in the private sector. It's especially difficult when you come as a Swede flying into Balkans, and not to be duped by these very beautiful organizations. And but I think we have found now, and I think we should discuss this a little bit with you, German, later over a coffee. But now I wanted to for me, another problem is not only to find the right collaborator in the country that really have integrity and to promote honest and good business, is also to find the right role models in the EU family. So in the beginning, when you presented all these percentages of GDP and, you know, very bleak picture, I was thinking, how does it look in other regions? I mean, what should I relate these figures to? So, for instance, we are often thinking that we work with Slovenia, we work with the Baltic state, because we think these are maybe regions that could provide relevant reforms that they have done. Do you have, and can you anyhow guide me here? How bad is it compared to other regions? Is there statistics similar to how other regions have, you know, progressed or degressed? Is this an overall trend? I come from Sweden, and we see a big trend on increased information, I would say, about corruption in procurement in municipalities. I think it was always there, but I think we just have more information about it now. So this was my question.
Lena, there is a single market procurement scoreboard that talks a lot about procurement in EU countries. There are good performers there, but there are also not very good performance, as you mentioned. We need EU good examples, but we cannot compare the level of corruption. So that's the most important. Maybe you will find a EU country with I don't know, 3.5 bids per tender in average, but the level of corruption, it's incomparable, first. And second, we also, as a Balkan Tender Watch Coalition, we also exchange opinion with contracting authorities from the European Union member states. The way they do procurements is far away from the way procurements are done in our countries. Their mentality, I mean, their idea in general, I'm talking, the predominant idea is to select the best bid, the most favorable bid. Here we cannot get that feeling. So that's the difference. But also we are, as you know, it was several years ago, European Union for the first time did a very comprehensive report on corruption in public procurement in member states. So there were one alarming result was that especially in the construction. There were very high percentages of risks of corruption, and in the services, but then very limited example.
И во нашиот извештај е нотирано дека до сега многу малце министерства meaningful ги вклучуваат и дека нема поента само да го правиме, а и да покажеме вако, и сакав да се надевам да им кажам дека се надевам дека ќе се убрза работава со структурен механизам за
Maybe I will add something. Can I add something to Lena to this discussion?
Треба да бидат натори кои што работат
Do
и
you
дека
hear me?
само јас сум прес.
Do you hear me? Actually,
Yes.
let me say one thing which may link the Balkan countries toward this EU aspect. Is the role of Chamber of Commerce as some sort of framework organization of those association of business entrepreneurs. Within every organization, you have something it's called Court of Honor, where you have various institutions, where you have within institutions some integrity mechanism where people tend to say that somebody is not doing the right thing regarding the good business practice. He is using a corruption, and then somebody will blame. Within the Balkan countries, you have all Chamber of Commerces, and you have all this, let's say, institutional mechanism. I think in Bosnia is the sure, but I'm sure that this is the situation everywhere. There was no any case of let's say somebody who actually from business sector that blamed others that did this or that regarding the misdoing in public procurements or any other business. It means that what German actually has said, that we have a different level of trust among our businesses, and still the government and those who are actually in power are not partners to the business community, but they are, let's say, ruling or even creating their own business community that is supporting them. And nobody actually want to do anything against, because they have mechanism, they have inspections, they have other things that they can deter your businesses and so on. But still, it means that but we are all in Balkan countries are more or less the same, because we are sharing the same tradition of corruption.
Thank you, Aco. I think Ratko wanted to add something.
Yes, I just wanted to correct you about the level of corruption, because I studied in Italy, the procurement, I studied there, the master degree, and we have a lot of common with Italy when talking about corruption, and the professors from Italy and the students from Italy, we were really close in those when we were talking about the level of corruption. And just to answer to Lena about the problems, I think the best country for comparing our results is Slovenia maybe, and Croatia, because when we are doing some projects, when I was working in Serbian review body, we did a lot of projects with them. They have the similar systems, and yeah, we are close, you know, geographically and culturally, and so we are speaking more or less the same language. So yes, those countries, we have the same systems. Procurement, that's the most important. And the problems in general, I think the problems in procurement are the same everywhere where I participated at some conferences, but somehow in Western Balkans, there are on a different level. Yes, you know, the nature of the problems is the same, but we are just above, you know, like higher level of those problems. Yes, so that's I wanted to tell you.
Thank you.
May I add something? But I don't hear you now.
Alexandra.
Yes.
Yes, I'm glad to hear you and to see you.
Yeah, I'm also very glad to see you, and thank you for, although a bit late, invitation. I'm Alexandra Martinovic.
Alexandra, please represent yourself, because maybe for the others.
Yeah, I started. I am Alexandra Martinovic. I'm a board member of Transparency International in Bosnia and Herzegovina. I deal with the procurement for the past 20 years. And for more than a decade, I was a part of this coalition, Balkan Tender Watch. So we initiated this monitoring actually in real time that we continued in all these years. I would like to thank you for the invitation, and just to highlight a few things that were more or less already mentioned. We, in terms of possible solutions, I mean, all the problems that were enlisted are more or less common. We have some changes in the legislation in terms that certain things that some countries already had, other countries are dropping, like you, German, mentioned the Pandora box, and thank you for that. I would like to have more space to discuss with you about it, and perhaps to analyze it in the future, to make a comparative analysis on this criminal charges. I mean, the criminal, how it is shaped in your criminal code, because this is something that we are fighting to get in Bosnia and Herzegovina for the past several years. I was really depressed when I saw the latest report, as Alexander said, less than 1.5 bits per tender. And I want to mention that a month ago or so, there was a regional conference organized here in Banja Luka, organized by the EU delegation in Bosnia and Herzegovina and co-organized by the UNDP. Regional in terms of that a few EU member states were present, exactly Slovenia and Croatia, like the person before me mentioned, and some countries from the region, of course, Bosnia, I think there was also Kosovo, Albania, and so on. Actually, there was also a memorandum of understanding, as far as I understood, signed between the institutions of our countries to collaborate in the future accession process in terms of common things in the legislation, and also in terms of monitoring. So I would, like to highlight what also somebody says, I think it was also you, German, something similar to integrity pacts that Transparency International invented long time ago, signing of declaration that all participants in certain high value, important public procurement contracts will not pay any bribe, plus a civil society organization that will monitor that both sides, contracting authority and economic operators, fulfill that. So that is the basic of integrity pacts, and I saw in literature that it can really become a precondition in the accession process, and we should insist on that. I was also, for the past several years, a civil society observer in the board of Public Procurement Agency, and I'm very sorry, German, that I couldn't come on the last conference in that capacity. I have to say a few nice words for our Public Procurement Agency in terms of collaboration with civil society, sending all kinds of charges, either criminal or disciplinary, but the judicial system fails. Almost not a single proper verdict. So that's another area where we need to focus more in the future. What we lack in terms of the data, and I also perceived it as a problem in the whole EU, are those changes during the implementation of the procurement contracts. Those were not allowed in Bosnia until recent changes in the law, but those are the data that are not yet made transparent. And I'm really looking forward to do some research once we get those kinds of data. So yeah, we have a lot of work to do in the future. I would be happy if we can also, if we can again establish some form of cooperation. As far as I understood, the EU would welcome that, because obviously they are aware, I mean, the institutions are aware about the corruption risks and possible level of corruption, but we need data, we need monitoring, and we need to put public pressure, to continue putting public pressure on all stakeholders, particularly now in the judicial system. That would be it.
Thank you, Alexandra, for looking ahead and for also
Always.
pointing to some good examples of, or at least tries for cooperation and for involvement of civil society in the work of competent institutions regarding fight against corruption, especially in public procurement. I see Ms. Joanna Ristani, if I'm correct.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, my name is Joanna Ristani. I am from Public Procurement Agency in Albania. First of all, thank you for this organizing this kind of activities and forums. It is very important for us as public institutions dealing with this policy, public procurement policy, to understand and to have the view of the civil society apart from the government institutions and the business. So this is very important for us. Apart from that, I just wanted to clarify some moments and to say some things related to corruption and what Dorian said about this level of corruption and lack of ownership of institutions in Albania, referring to the corruption cases. First of all, corruption is not one thing that happens only on the public side. So if we have corruption, we have to look at both sides, the public sector and the private sector as well. So also businesses and economic operators participating in the public procurement procedures should be having, so we should have a look also at them, the bid rigging or the that might happen there. So we as a public procurement agency in Albania have actually a very good collaboration with all the institutions that are involved in some level in with the anti-corruption measures, from the High Inspectorate of Declaration of Assets and Conflict of Interests for the public officials, the Competition Authority, and also the prosecution and courts. So we have very good collaboration with them. We collaborate basically on a daily basis whenever they need information from us regarding public procurement procedures. So even though public procurement agency itself has not referred any cases so far, because there have not been cases from what public procurement agency has verified, has monitored to be referred to the prosecution or as corruption cases. But in any case, we have very good collaboration with the prosecution, and it should be taken into account that during these last years in Albania, there have been many cases of prosecution cases and also court sentences for public procurement procedures. And most of them actually are related to public procurement procedures. So this has to be taken into account as a positive development. So this that institutions and courts and prosecution is reacting towards the corruption cases. On the other hand, I agree with Dorian that technology and digitalization is not so it does not solve everything. So we also need human factor. For this, we have a very good plan to go towards a professionalization of the procurement procedures and raising capacities of the procurement officers and procurement officials in Albania. So we will have better procurement procedures in the future, hopefully. So this is something that I wanted to say, and thank you again for this.
Thank you, Ms. Ristani, and also, I mean, that's the purpose of this kind of discussions. Yes, really to discuss issues and to find common solutions. I have a gentleman, R. Caranta, but I would like to ask you to Yeah, to
Well-
introduce yourself, because I'm reading what is written on the screen.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
Roberto.
Roberto,
Caranta.
yes,
I'm
please.
a professor at the University of Turin. So I don't have direct experience in the Western Balkans, but I'm from Italy. So possibly I know one thing or two about corruption. And well, honestly, from our experience, the biggest issue is the lowest price. Because the one winning to the lowest price is often someone already knowing someone, and then it will be contract changes and the price will be going up. The problem is that defeating the lowest price is difficult. And it is difficult because, for instance, auditors, they like lowest price. They think, oh, that's mathematic. This is the most stupid thing I ever heard, not just in my country, but for instance, also in Romania. The lowest price is the main gate for corruption. Is not anything that is good for fighting corruption. And the lowest price has a lot of other issues. Well, someone was citing data of number of companies in the country and number of companies working in public procurement and asking, oh, why so few companies work in public procurement? Well, in Italy, you have two kinds of construction companies. One kind of companies working for the private market. Quality is important for them. And the other kind of companies just working on public procurement. And they are just trying to do things cheap. That's why our bridges tend to fall, by the way. You will not have more companies going into public procurement unless you are ready to spend more for quality. And you are ready to reward officials for spending more, for getting more quality, much more better quality, sorry. And this brings to the level of competition, because of course a lot of companies, they are not just interested into public procurement. As you said, other companies like SMEs is just too complicated. So to fight competition, you make it more complicated and then you narrow your market. Sorry, to fight corruption, you make it more complicated and then you narrow your market. Not sure that you achieve fighting competition. Also, keep in mind that for a lot of procurement, especially when they become complex and it's not just lowest price, taking part in procurement is expensive. So you don't take part into all and every procurement. You try to see those 3-4 procurement where your chances are higher. So you will never have 10 competitors. If you have 10 competitors, probably 6 of them have agreed on big rigging to push the price into their interests. But I will come to big rigging in a moment. Cross-border, I think it's a great initiative to try to translate calls into English. But then the problem is the language of the procurement documents, the language of the tender. And it's not just that. is different rules, different accounting rules, different certification. It has been a few years ago, but I was it was not it was Nantes. Nantes is 30 kilometers from the border with Belgium, with the part of Belgium where they speak French. I asked them, how many companies you had from Belgium? 0. So in this case, it was not even the language. They all speak French. It was just the different regulatory accountancy system. So cross-border you can have for super big contracts. For the rest is a little bit utopic, unless you start using Amazon and buy on Amazon, and then of course your computer can come from any country. Collusion. Well, there are some countries where there is no problem or not a big problem of corruption. You take the Netherlands, you look at Transparency International, it is very green. Well, it's the home of the biggest collusion cases in the past 20 years in the EU in public procurement. It was the Chamber of Commerce that someone was mentioning, basically deciding who was winning any procurement in works procurement in the country, and deciding who was coming next to that, second to that procurement to win another one. Transparency is super beautiful to fight corruption, is very good to allow collusion. It's very good to allow collusion because they know what prices were paid for anything. They see whether there were cheating on some collusion agreement. And integrity pacts, we use them in Italy. I don't think it's anything bad from using the integrity pact, but just keep in mind that this is paperwork. You check and you have them. So my conclusion is don't lose the bigger picture. Don't focus so much on corruption to forget that you need the public procurement to work. And some anti-corruption measures are not always conducive to sensible public procurement. Thank you a lot for listening.
Thank you, Professor Caranta, especially for pointing the problem with the lowest price, which is my favorite problem that in the last 2 decades I'm talking about, and also the organization I work for, Center for Civil Communications, and also in the Balkan Tender Watch Coalition. In our past reports, we refer to the problem with the lowest price and all other problems that are generated from this one. Just to mention, for North Macedonia, 95% of tenders are done by the lowest price, and along with the e-auction, it's really one of the, maybe the #1 problem in our procurements. I see 2 also familiar faces next in line. Our colleague Zoran Gavrilovic from Birodi, and our colleague and friend Diana Metushi-Krasnici, who is also always one of the top experts in the field from Kosovo, but also in the region. Zoran, please.
Thank you, German. My name is Zoran Gavrilovic, and I'm sociologist, and I'm not expert in public procurement, but my expertise in integrity and anti-corruption. I want to open one topic for me as sociologist is very important. It is including citizen in the process, monitoring and preparing public procurement. I think that we, as organization who want to work in area of public procurement, did not enough include citizen. Who can be useful in part of monitoring of spending money in public procurement in general. If we don't have public, we cannot speak about public procurement. If we want to have public, we must include citizens in the process of preparing and creating a priority in public procurement from one side. On second side, we must include citizen in process of evaluation quality of public procurement. 2021, I'm not sure, German. I work on one document, integrity of public procurement, and I think, and in that document, I try to open this topic, and U.S. coalition, for me, the most relevant coalition in this part of Europe. I believe one day, and European Union have one type obligation to open this question, because I know as citizen that I have need to evaluate public procurement. For example, I'm a person who has diabetes, and I want to have one type of influence, and in some hospital organize preparing and evaluation different things in for hospital. One simple things. In general, I think that we can get citizen as our partner. We are from non-governmental organization, and we are part of system, but we need support and partnership by citizen, and because of that, it is very important to find solution that citizen can be included in monitoring and preparing public procurement. Today there is different type of IT solution for including citizen in this process, and I think that it can have good influence on integrity of public procurement. It is for me for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoran, and thank you for mentioning this. Our attempts to be preventive in corruption with this integrity plans. We did it for the public enterprises in North Macedonia, and a lot of them established this system and start working. But then when it comes to the head of institution, when the new head is there, so they all start from the beginning, and so the system collapses. Thank you for reminding us to the importance of integrity, system, and self-regulation in a way, and compliance of public institutions. I will ask next my colleague Diana Metushi-Krasniki from the Kosovo Democratic Institute.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Diana.
First, I apologize for not switching on the camera, but my connection is not really good, so I'm trying to prevent any type of potential interruptions. For those who do not know me, I'm Diana Metushi-Krasnici, part of Kosovo Democratic Institute, Transparency International Kosovo. By profession, I'm an economist, and I have quite a baggage of working directly in procurement, both on private and also in government entities. And by government, I don't mean Kosovo, but I mean the procurement system for Department of Defense of the United States, which is a different monster of procurement. What are the problems in our region? Unfortunately, they remain to be the same for the last decade since I've been involved in civil society in Kosovo. And it's kind of difficult to try and even recommend anything to be pushed forward, because the key problem in our region is lack of political willingness to actually push forward any potential or substantial reforms that could attribute to better or ensuring quality and efficiency of public expenditures through this procedure. I heard a lot of problems. I heard a lot of potential recommendations. Well, one good news I would like to share with everyone is that by the end of this year, we have, as part of a regional initiative, and through a project that is supported by DG NEAR, as we are launching integrity watch platforms that should be able to identify or point out conflict of interest in public procurements at more or less real time in the region, with the exception of Albania, who has not been part of this project at this time. So that would also help the institutions themselves to be able to identify potential red flags and conflict of interest based on different data sets from different government agencies, and hopefully expedite the accountability part of the House on this particular public policy. I was looking at the presentation you did, German, German, and to me, from my standpoint, it rose a flag when I saw increased number of usage of negotiated or restricted procedures, followed by decrease of participation or bids per offer throughout the region. And we have witnessed the same in Kosovo, and actually rose a flag about that about last year, that the usage of restricted procedures is automatically limiting the market or directing or the market at some point. Now, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, it's attributed to either
Diana, you muted yourself.
So, do you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Last year we had, there was a huge conference in Albania organized by Open Contracting Partnership that arose a lot of questions and a lot of good ideas about how to enhance and advance public procurement in European level. And actually, as a closeout, it came out that even the EU directives need to go through a reform in order to ensure sustainability and match the economic markets, especially the private side of the house. My concern is that I keep hearing all the time, you know, that the lowest price is a problem. Actually, there is also a research done from the University of Bologna on increased corruption using the most economically advantageous tenders. But the lowest price has never been a problem. What I've witnessed over the years as a problem throughout our region is understanding the vertical and horizontal legal obligations or legal mandates that correlate or that actually regulate a public procurement. When we're talking about public procurement, we're only talking about an administrative procedure, but in order to ensure the efficiency of that procedure, we have to take into consideration a gazillion legislative acts from the horizontal level that actually ensure or are there to ensure quality. And that's what has been neglected. It's not the lowest price, because it has never been a criteria throughout our region, the lowest price. It's always the responsive bid with the lowest price. Throughout our region, what I have witnessed over the decade is that we lack to tackle the responsiveness of an offer to actually pave the way or increase the accountability of the responsiveness part of the bid, even on the management planning part, and especially on the management part of it, as a key component of accountability. And then the easiest way, blame it on the price. It has never been the price. Now, the market behavior actually is implicated by many factors, and this is a very short time to talk about what could influence the decrease on bids and the public procurement. But one of the problems is the regulations, the bureaucracy, and the hassle that companies have to go on public procurement, and especially the limited funds, to actually promote something sustainable, innovative, and long-lasting. But that's another subject we have to focus onto. But I would like to point out two practices that we did here in Kosovo, besides having, the criminal act as part of our criminal code that we put it in 2019, and we already have several of indictments on that criminal code act. But I would like to point out to the civic engagement. While we cannot expect that we can have civic engagement in material supply, etc., we can definitely ensure civic participation in procurement for works. And what we've done in Kosovo is we have incorporated into legislation for municipalities participatory budgeting, where the citizens at a percentage, currently is very low, hopefully by proving success it will increase, will be included through the entire process, from identification to the closeout of the contract, through planning, oversight, input, and everything. And then when my colleague from Bosnia mentioned integrity pacts, we have been applying. Actually, we just started applying integrity pacts here in Kosovo, the first time in the region. And just by having oversight, it showed that even the municipalities themselves are going to show way more responsible, accountable, or responsive toward the procurement action. So it's not that it will not show progress. It's not about just checking some paperwork. Actually, we're engaged throughout the whole phase, from its planning, design of specifications, communicating continuously with the municipality, helping the business develop their integrity tools and mechanisms. So it's beyond just checking or doing some ticks on the paper. And that's what we need to see in order to promote a culture of accountability. Unfortunately, throughout my engagement in civil society, most of the projects have been based on paper analysis, paper checkbox clicks, and we have shifted to actually being hands-on and trying to prove a faith, or no, actually a mindset that together we can actually make something better than just being critical. But in order to talk about procurement, it's like there has to be a reform throughout the region. In Kosovo, unfortunately, our reform has been hibernating. But what I've seen in several of regions, and again, I'm not referring to Albania, as I have only briefly analyzed their new reform that just went to power I think it was this year. To see how it compares to the best practices, not to the best legal framework. But we need to actually see how to correlate the horizontal implications on public procurement in order to achieve efficiency. And this is what it's missing. We're only seeing public procurement as a separate activity, not as a combined activity from different stakeholders, different legal frameworks with different accountabilities and different requirements as it should be. I can talk for procurement for ages, but actually I'm even beyond the time for the conference. So hopefully we will continue in some other meeting or conference to discuss and elaborate how to fix this problem in our region at least.
Thank you, Diana, as always. And you are right, you are not behind any time. I mean, we are only 7 minutes, and I will wrap up. And thank you for pointing to some solutions that have been tackled and mentioned during the discussion. And yes, also maybe this is the right time for you to mention that we have just started in North Macedonia for the first time ever citizen oversight of public procurement, which means along with citizens, we go and in-depth research disputed tenders pointed by citizens themselves. So together with them, we go ask for documents and we ask for responsibility and also for solutions from the local authorities. This is meant to be for local self-government. So thank you for stressing the importance of including as well citizens in all these aspects. Yes, we are I would say just right on time with our discussion. Thank you all for participating. You will all receive our report. It will be posted on our website, which is balkantenderwatch.eu after this discussion, and also there you will find all our past reports, last year report, which is still valuable and stays, and we are looking forward for the new EU progress reports this fall. So we will also reflect as shadow report for each of these countries. And Diana is asking if she can get this benchmarking tool. Yes, it is also publicly available on our website, and I will send personally so the whole methodology. Thank you once again, and we will not stop discussing the issue here. I am sure that we will continue our discussion either in our countries, and as Lena mentioned, she already set a meeting, and also regionally, since you all are aware that the problems are pretty much the same, even though the numbers are different, but the problems are the same. Thank you once again, and have a good afternoon.